21st Annual PotterWatch Conference, sponsored by UNC Charlotte's PotterWatch Club and the Children's Lit Graduate Organization. Our first panelist this morning is Ms. Joanna Tepper from Winthrop University. She's a senior there and she's studying English and secondary ed. Her paper is entitled Controlling the Beast, Masculinity in the Harry Potter Series. Enjoy.
In the Harry Potter series, the roles of Sirius Black and Remus Lupin are drastically different. Sirius is the rash godfather Harry looks up to, and Lupin is the haggard, logic-driven defense against the dark arts professor. These two characters play a dramatic role in Harry's coming of age, and his decision of what type of man he will grow up to be. Will he be rash and quick to seek revenge, easy to anger and go stir-crazy, or will he control the animal within him, teach others, think things through, and in the end make the right decision? Which of Harry's father's two best friends when he stays at Hogwarts is the best father figure and role model for Harry until he matures and grows into the man who must face Voldemort alone? In the end, Harry must set aside the desire for strong, aggressive masculinity and instead choose non-violent but powerful masculinity. I will argue that Lupin is a better role model and mentor for Harry than Sirius, but Lupin is often overlooked because he is non-violent. At the same time, both Sirius and Lupin serve as a reminder of the past, and both men provide an insight into James Potter that Harry needs to understand who his father was and what kind of man he would become. Sirius Black is the definition of aggressive masculinity. He is rash, holds grudges, is easily angered, and susceptible to violence. When Harry first meets Sirius, all of these characteristics are overshadowed by the fact that Harry has discovered a father figure. Throughout The Prisoner of Azkaban, readers are already confronted with a character who is rash and seeks revenge. As soon as Sirius finds Peter Pettigrew, he is ready to kill him without any justification. He is only stopped by Lupin's logic, and Harry deserves an explanation. For Sirius and his rash behavior, this is just the beginning. It becomes more apparent as the reader and Harry see more of Sirius that he may not be the safest role model. In the Order of the Phoenix, readers are presented with a different Sirius. This Sirius is no longer on the run, but hiding at his family's house, 12 Grimmauld Place. When Harry arrives after his encounter with the Dementors, readers get a glimpse into the person Sirius is. Someone who would welcome a Dementor attack if it means he gets to leave the house. Dumbledore comments on this, saying, Sirius was a brave, clever, and energetic man, and such men are not usually content to sit at home in hiding while they believe others to be in danger. One of the biggest risks Sirius takes in the Order of the Phoenix is when he leaves hiding to accompany Harry to King's Cross. While at first Harry does not perceive the gravity of Sirius going outside, after an encounter with Draco Malfoy, he begins to understand just how dangerous it is. Twice in the Order of the Phoenix does Sirius take a chance and use the Flu Network to talk to Harry again, and during the second time they are caught by Professor Umbridge. Harry begins to see how rash Sirius truly is, but not without a price to their relationship, as Sirius tells Harry, "You're less like your father than I thought. The risk would have been what made it fun for James." This reference to James is a weak spot for Harry, and demonstrates the key to Sirius and James's relationship, risky behavior. Sirius is trying to encourage Harry to act like the younger, immature version of James that he remembers, but instead Harry becomes more of a parental figure to Sirius as he attempts to keep him safe. Along the same lines, Sirius also has a hard time separating Harry from James. Earlier in the Order of the Phoenix, Molly Weasley addresses the fact that Harry is not James when Sirius wants to include Harry in what the Order of the Phoenix is doing. Kate Baer argues in Same is Difference, Narrative Transformations and Intersecting Cultures in Harry Potter, that Harry could not understand why Sirius should not treat him or view him as his best friend returned rather than his best friend's child. Rowling points out via Molly and Hermione that by doing this, Sirius is not thinking of Harry's best interests as a parental figure should. At the same time, as Sirius switches back and forth between being Harry's godfather and being Harry's friend, he provides Harry with information on who James was when he was the same age as Harry. There are times when Sirius's encouragement to be like James is positive, such as when Harry, Hermione, and Ron ask Sirius's opinion on starting Dumbledore's army. His response is, "I think it's an excellent idea. Do you think your father and I would have lain down and taken orders from an old hag like Umbridge?" Sirius encourages Harry to break the rules, compliments him on being like his father, and in doing so, sets an example of what adolescent Sirius and James would have done, which most times would be a bad example, except when it comes to being able to defend oneself. It is possible that because of Sirius's behavior in the past, Harry believes himself to be on the same level as Sirius and James when they were in school. Therefore, Sirius appears less as a guardian to Harry and more as his friend in need. Overall, Sirius fills a void that Harry has had since his parents' death. In the Goblet of Fire, after Harry's scar hurts and he does not know who to tell, he realizes that Sirius fills the role of a parent. An adult wizard whose advice he could ask without feeling stupid, someone who cared about him, who had experience with dark magic. Sirius is also there for Harry when he needs someone to talk to and share his worries about the Triwizard Tournament. Sirius is Harry's ally. He is willing to risk everything to protect his godson. Harry and Sirius's connection relies on Sirius's relationship with James. In the end, after Sirius's death, their relationship can be summarized by Harry's words to Dumbledore. "It's just hard," Harry said finally in a low voice, "to realize he won't write to me again." He felt stupid for admitting it, but the fact that he had had someone outside Hogwarts who cared about what happened to him, almost like a parent, had been one of the best things about discovering his godfather. Harry and Sirius had an instant connection after Harry learned the truth about his godfather. They both immediately began to correspond and to rely on each other. This connection that Harry has to Sirius is one of the main reasons he's a role model mentor to Harry. If Harry had taken the time when Sirius was around to still develop a relationship with Lupin, then Harry might have saved his godfather's life instead of risking it. But Harry and Lupin do not have the same type of relationship, because first and foremost, Lupin is Harry's professor. Even though Lupin is a better role model because he is able to control the animal inside himself, his aggressive nature, and his non-violent but powerful wizard, the fact that in The Prisoner of Azkaban he was Harry's professor forced him to distance himself from Harry. He also developed a student-teacher relationship rather than a friendship. While Lupin wants to comfort Harry and be that parental figure, as his professor he cannot risk Harry's education. Lupin does not divulge the extent of his friendship with James in order to be able to better teach Harry how to defend himself, and not have Harry focus on asking him questions about his father. While Lupin's tactic works and Harry successfully learns how to make Patronus, Lupin has placed himself in the role of a teacher in Harry's mind. Even though at the end of The Prisoner of Azkaban, Harry has more knowledge of James, Sirius, and Lupin's friendship, Lupin's involvement is overshadowed by Harry's discovery of his godfather. After Lupin leaves his post as Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher, there is little to no contact between Harry and Lupin again until the Order of the Phoenix. Following the death of Sirius, Lupin is the biggest connection to James that Harry has left. In The Half-Blood Prince, Harry attempts to replace Sirius with Lupin. Harry had received no mail since the start of the term. His only regular correspondent was now dead, and although he had hoped that Lupin might write occasionally, he had so far been disappointed. Harry wants guidance and someone to talk to outside of Hogwarts, but he will not find it with Lupin, who, come to find out, has been living with his fellow werewolves. Lupin begins to represent the mature James that Harry does not get to see in Snape's memory. Harry had questioned why Lily would fall in love with James, and readers are to infer that there was a change in James's behavior. Therefore, while Sirius represents the aggressive, immature side of James, Lupin represents the less aggressive, more mature side of Harry's father that receives less focus in the series. There are only 3 times throughout the series that Harry sees Lupin break from his calm, logical outlook towards life and demonstrate a role reversal. First, Lupin transforms into a werewolf in The Prisoner of Azkaban and is held in check by Sirius in dog form. The second time Lupin loses control is after he learns of Dumbledore's death in the Order of the Phoenix. Lupin collapsed into a chair beside Bill's bed, his hands over his face. Harry had never seen Lupin lose control before. He felt as though he was intruding upon something private and indecent. More extreme than this time is in the Deathly Hallows, when Lupin discusses having a baby with Tonks, and Harry sees Lupin be violent in his human form. While Lupin struggles to remain nonviolent, he does slip up, demonstrating the amount of willpower required to control the animal inside him. But it is something Lupin knows he must do, and he continues to fight the battle within himself. In this last example, Lupin loses control at the thought of his child being a werewolf. He's afraid his child will be aggressive, like Sirius, and he does not realize his ability to teach control of aggression already, as demonstrated by both Harry and James. Even though Sirius and Lupin are very different characters, to Harry, they have one important aspect of their lives in common. They both knew James Potter. Harry clings to any connection to his father, especially these 2 men. While Sirius showers Harry with gifts, including his firebolt, Lupin keeps his and James's friendship quiet and instead teaches Harry the most important defense he has ever learned, which is also a link to James. Both men share bits and pieces of James with Harry, helping Harry discover the type of man his father was and a model of masculinity for himself. As Harry grows and approaches his coming of age, he resembles both Sirius and Lupin at times, and therefore aspects of his own father. In The Prisoner of Azkaban, when Harry encounters Sirius in the Shrieking Shack, he demonstrates an innate rashness that equals Sirius's haste to kill Peter Pettigrew. Throughout the Order of the Phoenix, Sirius's influence over Harry is apparent as he lacks patience, acts without thinking, and is an aggressive teenage boy. The similarities between Harry and Sirius grow when Harry becomes a godfather too. In the Deathly Hallows, after Tonks gives birth to her and Lupin's son, Teddy Remus Lupin, Harry is named godfather. As the battle with Voldemort rages on, Harry has to make some rash decisions, but by following his instincts, something Lupin encourages Harry to do, he's able to separate himself from the image of his rash godfather, even though Harry believes he seemed set on a course to become just as reckless a godfather to Teddy Lupin as Sirius Black had been to him. Harry recognizes the similarities between Sirius and himself, but combined with Lupin's teaching, he's able to refrain from following in Sirius's footsteps towards an unknown death. On the other hand, Harry resembles Lupin in his refusal to resort to violence, even when violence is being done to those around him. The first time readers get a glimpse into the non-violent side of Harry Potter, it is when Sirius and Lupin are about to kill Peter Pettigrew, and Harry stops them because he does not think James would have wanted them to become killers. Harry is still acting on a romanticized version of James, and not the version of his father who taunts and bullies Snape with Sirius. Likewise, Expelliarmus is Harry's signature spell, that is to remove someone's defenses and send them hurtling towards death. Harry has begun to see the need to refrain from violence as something that separates him from Voldemort's aggressive masculinity, and at the same time from the image of James and Sirius in Snape's memory. Not only does Harry demonstrate some control over his aggression, but he also becomes a good teacher of defense against the dark arts, as the leader of Dumbledore's army when the Ministry sees fit to stop allowing students to actually practice defensive magic. Harry is finishing the job Lupin started when he was professor at Hogwarts. By the end of The Half-Blood Prince, Harry has acknowledged his quest to find someone to fill the role of a father in his life, and the futility of it, his true coming of age. Harry finally realizes he must take control of himself and his own destiny. He embraces what he must do and demonstrates his growth and knowledge from his mistakes with Sirius by not allowing Lupin to come with him, Ron, and Hermione in the Deathly Hallows. Harry channels Lupin's logic and nonviolent behavior throughout the Deathly Hallows, and even reprimands Lupin for acting like Sirius and volunteering to help Harry on the pretense that James would approve even if it meant leaving his wife and unborn child. Harry tells Lupin, "I'm pretty sure my father would have wanted to know why you aren't sticking with your own kid, actually. I think you're feeling a bit of a daredevil. You fancy stepping into Sirius's shoes." When Harry refers back to James here, he has a deeper understanding of his father than he did in the Shrieking Shack, because of his relationship with both Sirius and Lupin. Harry is able to use Lupin's own logic and teachings against him, while Harry feels deep remorse for the way he spoke to Lupin. In the end, Lupin acknowledges the accuracy of Harry's statement and goes back to Tonks. It is important to note that this time, when Lupin loses control, Harry is the one to remind him who he is, just in the way Lupin reminded Harry of who his father really was. Once Harry is able to reprimand Lupin in this way, he shows readers that he is finally done searching for a father figure and can face his destiny, Voldemort. Later on, Harry hears Lupin telling him to follow his instincts, which are good and nearly always right, on PotterWatch. Lupin's advice demonstrates his understanding and forgiveness for Harry's harsh words because they were what Lupin needed to hear. While Harry's advice to Sirius never resulted in any kind of change in his behavior, with Lupin, Harry is able to make a difference. After Harry's coming of age, he portrays the perfect balance between aggressive and non-violent behavior, growing into the man he needs to be, no longer the boy who lived, but rather the chosen one, a man who willingly and knowingly sacrifices himself for those he loves, like Sirius, Lupin, and James all did for Harry. Harry needs both Sirius and Lupin to become the man he needs to be in order to save the world, but both play different roles. Sirius demonstrates the aggressive part of Harry's nature that he needs to control, while Lupin teaches Harry how to avoid impulsive behavior. Both men help Harry stop romanticizing James and to understand his father as a real person who made mistakes. Harry needs the example of both Sirius and Lupin in order to provide insight into James's character. Both men demonstrate different sides of James, helping Harry realize the connection to his father. In the same way that Sirius was the aggressive, immature side of James, and Lupin was the rational, mature side, these two men are the same side of Harry. But at the end of the series, Harry must confront Voldemort alone. James is dead, Sirius is dead, Lupin is dead. Harry has no father to rely on, but he embraces his destiny and succeeds in defeating Voldemort once and for all. Harry has officially come into his own, becoming a godfather to Teddy, who loses both parents to Voldemort, like Harry, and 19 years later, becoming a father himself to two sons to whom he must model nonviolent but powerful masculinity.
Is Amanda Bond here? Amanda? No? All right, so we have plenty of time for questions then. Thank you. Floor is open.
I have a question. I really like your characterization of the moment when Harry goes to face Voldemort and how what he's learned from Sirius and Luke's play into his adulthood. And one of the things that Harry says to Voldemort that's just amazing, he tells him to try to feel some remorse, so he can heal his soul. And as part of that speech, he tells him, be a man. What would you say that shows about Harry's notion of masculinity at that point?
I would say that it kind of shows that there's more than the violent nature. You have to be beyond that. You have to show the remorse. You have to, it's not just about power for him anymore. That's where he has the non-violent. It's not passive, but it's powerful, but it's in a different way. It's not aggressive. Is the word that I use.
Lupin is, well, you mentioned that Lupin was his teacher first. Do you think the roles switched because Harry became a teacher in Order of the Phoenix, or that Lupin was his role model as a teacher in Order of the Phoenix, that their relationship changed that way? That Harry was willing to step up?
I think that's a good point. Yeah, I kind of addressed that, when Harry goes on to further his teaching. And I do think that you can see a shift because Harry models Lupin's teaching at that point. So in a way, he starts to model his masculinity as well. I can see that.
Other questions? I had one. Not so much a question as maybe a discussion prompt, but of course throwing Dumbledore in the mix. If we say that Sirius represents a rash, aggressive type of masculinity, and Lupin sort of flips that, how could we describe Dumbledore as a father figure in those terms?
I didn't want to go into Dumbledore because then it would have been so much longer.
We can have this. And we have plenty of time also, so we can kind of make it a discussion. I know I feel like all the pressure's on you up there, but.
I guess I would say with Dumbledore that he kind of models, he tries to be a father figure, but it's more of a this is making sure Harry gets to class, making sure Harry, okay, well this is what you need, so I'm going to push you in that direction. While Lupin and Sirius model the different aspects of, I guess, individuality more so. I don't know if that makes sense.
Almost like behavior.
Right.
Versus
right.
Dumbledore, kind of, I think about, I was rereading the first book this weekend, when he goes to the mirror of Erised, and he's been watching him, and he doesn't know he's been watching him. And it's kind of like that father that knows that you were beating up your sister, but he waited a few weeks to see if you would self-correct. And so he's kind of, I think, a parent in the way that he kind of lets you make your own mistakes. Kind of see that, which is, it's not as hands-on, so it's not as behavioral, it's more of a almost grandfatherly.
Yeah, kind of behind the scenes, pushing in the right direction without disciplining.
Did you have something wrong?
I was actually going to say something along those lines. He's kind of like the mother bird that throws Harry off the tree and wants Harry to make his own mistakes. And he followed Joseph Campbell's model. He was Harry's mentor. He, all the best quotes from Dumbledore.
Other questions or comments?
Oh, I thought it was really great that you pointed out, because I only heard one other person say it, and I don't know if I misresearched or what, but when I first read Deathly Hallows, I was like, good grief, she is merciless. She has left no one alive. And then I was listening to a podcast and somebody pointed out, well, she had to kill off Lupin and Tonks because, it's supposed to be a kind of a Harry's getting to start over that same story from the beginning. Growing up without parents, but instead of being like the cruel, harsh parental figures that he had from the Dursleys, he is the good parent who cares about his godson, Teddy Lupin.
I really like the question about Dumbledore, and you were talking a lot about powerfulness and the ability to be non-violently powerful. Dumbledore is somebody who's sort of been through what Harry's been through in terms of having this youth where he wanted to wield power aggressively and then has learned not to. And as a result, people are very much aware that he has this tremendous power, but he hardly ever actually has to use it because people just know he can do these things.
Going off of that, I definitely agree when they're at King's Cross and Dumbledore talks about the Deathly Hallows and how Harry is the better man, which goes along with Harry telling Voldemort, be a man. It's kind of Harry achieving this ideal situation of manhood that everybody else kind of wishes for. Like Dumbledore says, I wish I could have been more like Harry could, and maybe things wouldn't turn out the same way.
Which is why Harry wasn't the true master of the Hallows, because he's the only one who could. Yeah, how Dumbledore wasn't the true master of the Hallows and Harry was, because he was the only one who would be able to give them up, because he didn't feel a connection to them, because he didn't want power.
And that goes along with his whole, Horcruxes or Hallows. Which one does he go
Exactly.
with? Does he go with defeating Voldemort? Does he go with making himself more powerful? And in the end, by making the right decision, he makes himself more powerful. Because that masters stuff.
Other questions and comments?
This could be another discussion topic. But I was wondering how Arthur Weasley would fit in this model as well.
Oh, yes.
Because I know that Harry's strongest maternal figure is Molly, because she's just the epitome of a mother. She's a great mother. So I know Harry has a sort of connection to Arthur. He stops Harry from, in Prisoner of Azkaban, he stops Harry from going after Sirius, because he knew that Harry would want to be like Sirius.
Well, I kind of saw Arthur Weasley as more of like an uncle figure to him. He's there, he's always going to protect Harry, he loves Harry and stuff, but he's not going to be as strong a role model as Lupin and Sirius. So.
One of my favorite moments in Chamber of Secrets is when Harry and Ron are being yelled at for stealing the flying car, and he says, it didn't work. I mean, there's an extent to which the dad is a child himself. I mean, Arthur Weasley is very childlike in some ways, and I think he's able to connect with Harry on that level, which would make him a really bad father figure, but I think makes him great. He's the cool uncle. So it says, don't tell your mom I let you do this.
Yeah, I think that Molly really overshadows Arthur. And I know that Eddie is going to do a paper on that later that talks addresses it, but definitely he's the uncle, which kind of goes with Sirius trying to be the cool godfather, and yet he has all these different roles that he's trying on with Harry, and none of them seem to really work.
I think Arthur Weasley is a good, whether he wants to be or not, because his family's poor, and it's always brought up by the Malfoys constantly about their poverty, but they're so, their wealth is in their children, and they've had all these kids, and I think he's kind of an unspoken model of, just because you don't have money and power, because Weasley, he's in the ministry, but he's not at the top. He's influential, but even people who were in the ministry, bump him around in different times. But I think being a parent of many children, the poverty issue is a big deal. If you know people in their life who have lots of children and they're struggling to feed their kids, but they're really strong because they're present in their children's lives, and I think he gives them a sense of family and community. That just because you don't have prestige and finances doesn't mean that you can't be in a good family. And the Dursleys had money, but they would share it. And it's funny because there was so few, such a dichotomy of they had plenty, but they would, they give 50 pence for Christmas one year or something. And And the Dursleys like make him a sweater and it's fudge and all this stuff. And so I think there's a whole, you could probably do a whole spin on just like money within Harry Potter and economics and how he views that, especially when you have, in the first book you have, which is in the stone, like part of the stone, the elixir of life is to get money. And then in the very end you have the hollows can give you power. So I can see that going through and just created an entirely fun discussion in my own head, but.
So we have a couple of comments here. We'll go here, and then to you on the sweater.
I was also thinking like Arthur, I noticed, is probably the only one out of all the father figures I've known that represented the proper family man guy, like the father who is like Lupin and Sirius are really just like out, like they don't have a family, they don't have very much of a family until the end. Lupin did, but he died, so he had that same fate as James. Never really got to know his son, raise him. So there's another one, Vernon, but he's not like the proper father figure. So you see the two clashes there with Arthur and Mr. Vernon. So I think definitely Arthur would probably represent how to raise the family, how to look after them. I think that's pretty much what I think Harry's getting influenced by from Arthur.
Yeah.
Very much.
All right, over here. Thank you.
I just agree that Arthur's really important. It made me think of during her Q&A at the Carnegie Hall event when she was doing the Deathly Hallows, Rowling was talking about ways that the books almost went that didn't. And she said she'd originally planned to kill Arthur Weasley in Order of the Phoenix, and pulled herself up short because she realized, A, that for Harry to be what he needed to be, he needed to have a safe harbor, and that Molly Weasley wasn't capable by herself of creating that safe harbor, had to have Arthur there too, in order to make that a place that Harry could grow in such a sense that he could become the hero he needed to be. But also that Harry needed to have Ron whole in order to have to do what he would need to do, and that losing the father figure for Ron would end up having the ripple effect on Harry of losing another father figure. And so he had to be intact. And so she ended up, going in different directions, but even said to the end that Arthur was going to have to survive through Deathly Hallows because he was so necessary for Harry's development to be the character that he needed to be. So that suggests that there's definitely something playing in there.
I guess the way that you're talking about all the male characters, it seems as though you're maybe suggesting that Rowling's defining masculinity as something that needs to be tamed. That it's sort of, the male characters are sort of wild and they need a calming female influence in some sort or something to balance them. And I'm just wondering if you think that in some ways she's talking about gender roles in a way that supports dominant ideologies, or if there's any way that you think she subverts them.
I have a hard time answering this question because I have read Eddie's paper. He is a fellow student at Winthrop and he'll be presenting later. And his is basically talking about the feminine roles and the reversal. So I don't want to go into that because I'm afraid, because I've read his paper and I'm afraid that I'm going to start taking points from that and it's not. But I do agree with you, and if y'all stay for his paper later.
But it might be interesting, a riff on that question would be, what overall message is Rowling sending young male readers who may or may not have a positive male father figure in their lives? What is it telling them about how to find one or how to create one for yourself? I think is an interesting question.
I think, not that it's telling him to try him out, but in the end, Harry has to be his own father figure. And so I think it demonstrates that you can have this aggressive one, you can have this really logic, non-violent, but without them kind of coming together and playing off each other, you're just going to either be too aggressive or you're going to have no power. You're just going to be kind of there. It'll go to the extreme. And so she's kind of saying you need to be in the middle and you need to find it for yourself.
I think to kind of play off of that, I feel like maybe a good way to describe Harry becoming kind of the best qualities of all his father figures would be that he has strength and power, but it's under control. He's not weak, he's not passive, and he's not overly aggressive. He knows, like with the Hallows, he knows the power that they wield, but he's not, trying to dominate with that. He has that strength, but he has it under control.
Other comments and questions? Well, thank you all very much for attending this session. You will have a little bit longer break than we expected before the 11 o'clock session, but I'll see you back here for that.